Welcome to the Old Capital Network. We host the Darwin German Multifamily Show. Darwin German is a proud apartment syndicator. He has been investing, operating, and brokering commercial real estate for over 30 years. In the past, he has owned or managed over 8,000 units. Today, through investor syndication, he delivers housing to over 1,500 families. He has over 400 individual investors and provides a stable source of income for his 50 employees. He is filled with great stories in owning and operating apartment buildings. In the coming podcasts, Darwin will share some of those stories and the lessons he has learned. He is an open book. Now, let's listen to Darwin.
My name is Darwin German, and I am a proud apartment syndicator. I grew up in Southern California. My dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather were all auto mechanics. Yes, they fixed cars, but they all also invested in real estate. Besides family, my dad's favorite hobby was work. He was a workaholic. He always worked. I was my dad's assistant in his real estate business. I worked in that business, and thank God, because I was a horrible auto mechanic. But I was a good maintenance guy. Of course, I started maintenance and make-readies with my father when I was 8 years old. And at 16, after school, I cleaned out apartments, collected the coins from the laundry machines, cleaned the pools, painted units, polished cabinets, spoke with the tenants, collected the rent, and did the accounting. I think you can say I grew up in the business. My career in Texas real estate started in November 1989, this week 30 years ago, when my father purchased 128 units in Texas. I moved to DFW shortly thereafter. My father bought, and then I helped manage that first opportunity in Texas. Coming from California, not knowing very much about property management, I had to learn on the job. New town, new tenants, and a new, old building. I had to know, when do they do city inspections? What are the rules I have to follow with the city? How do I get tenants? Remember, this was before the internet and apartments.com. Where were the water shutoffs? Who knew the vendors that previously worked on the property? Wow, there was just so much stuff I needed to know. Yes, my multifamily career started this week 30 years ago with the purchase of that 128-unit property, Candlelight Park Apartments in Duncanville, Texas. I'm amazed that 30 years have gone by and I still love this business. I have a passion for it, and hopefully over the next few podcast episodes, I can share with you some of my funny and interesting stories about dealing with the purple Martians and how to make money in this business. I'll walk you through some of the situations that have helped and hurt me, and I'm going to be as honest as I can to help you. Let me give you some numbers. Over 30 years, I've been an owner, manager, and or broker of more than $500 million of properties. In 4 states, with over 8,000 units, over 1,200 individual homes, and millions of square feet of commercial, industrial, and office space. I have over 400 active investors. I've raised over $100 million of equity. We provide housing for more than 1,500 families. We provide a good living for over 50 families. And we paid out over $15 million in distributions last year alone to investors. Unbelievable. You can see why I'm so proud to be an apartment syndicator. Today, I want to pass along the things I've learned over the last 30 years. At the end of the podcast, I'll give you details of my very first apartment purchased in Dallas. At that time, I really did not know what I was doing. I got taken advantage of by the seller and the tenants, and I learned valuable lessons. All to help you not to do what I did in that first deal. It was an absolute train wreck. Today, I'm a real estate syndicator, sponsor, or lead, depending on your terminology. But first, what is a real estate sponsor? Sponsors use their experience, knowledge, education, and success in real estate investing to attract investors who want to invest passively with you to make money. They are investing in you and your team. Sales 101. People buy you first, then your company, then the product. A great deal is important, but if the investors do not trust you, they will not invest with you. Important points that you want to remember on this. Number 1, always be transparent. Number 2, always disclose everything. And number 3, always do what you say you will do. Now, if you have a problem, refer back to number 1 and number 2. This is a team business. You need to develop teams to assist in the business of sponsorship. These include mentors, Co-sponsors, people that have been through it that can help you. Lawyers, yes, plural. SEC lawyers to keep your butt out of jail. Transaction attorneys, title, tax, real estate, and many more. At one time, I had 11 different attorneys engaged. You need a CPA, property management company. You need to have relationships with brokers. You need a due diligence company to advise you on the condition of the property. You need lenders. They're your 70 to 80% partner. Contractors, numerous, so that you get numerous bids and they can help you through getting the properties improved. And investor relationships. You need to have those investors that are going to invest with you. And many more people that you need on your team. Now, a quick comment. The team will make or break you. And the team is your biggest asset. First pointed question. As a sponsor, you have legal fiduciary responsibility to your partners, to your investors. Are you doing what's best for the investor? The reason I say that is I have a concern. I've heard it taught, you need to retire, quit your job, raise money, and buy an apartment property. Now here's the question. Are you the best person to hire to be manager, asset manager? Is that following your legal fiduciary responsibility? Well, that's up to you to decide. Now, roughly every 7 years, there's a market correction, and roughly every 25 years, a major market crash. We started buying in 1989 after the major crash of 1986. The next major crash was 2008, and we all remember that. There were also minor corrections in 1991 and 2001. You need people on your team that have been through these corrections and know how to handle them. Let's start with your self-assessment. What experience do you have in real estate, in business, or in investing? What education do you have? What cash reserves do you have? You're going to need money to put up an earnest money deposit, pay for due diligence, pay loan commitment fees, pay for a survey, whatever else might come up. Now, you also need that cash so you have skin in the game. You need knowledge of city, state, and local codes and laws. You need knowledge of fair housing, knowledge of accounting and financials, knowledge of construction, knowledge of supervision and management. You also need sales, legal, insurance, advertising, banking, and lending knowledge. Make no mistake, you are starting a business from scratch with many areas of expertise needed. Number 2, preparation. I love the saying, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Plug the gaps in your self-assessment with people that can help or classes you can attend. Quick side note, never give away equity to people you can hire instead. You'll see that lesson shortly. Put the team together, or at least start putting the team together. Pick a market to focus on. No matter where you are in the country, pick a market to focus on. Analyze the market conditions. Develop relationships with brokers. Quick sidebar on that. In each market, there's only a dozen or so major players in each market. Get to know them. Analyze properties. Tour properties with the brokers. Go meet and talk to everyone. Brokers, lenders, managers, mentors, etc. And the most important item, start developing your potential investor list. You'd be surprised at who investors are. These are millionaires next door usually. It's a chicken and the egg scenario. What comes first, the property or the investors? Bottom line, you need them both. You need to be prepared for the opportunity. That's how you get lucky. In coming episodes, I'll go into detail about every step you need to take to be a successful real estate investor. Whether you want to be a sponsor or just a better informed passive investor, this information is for you. Being a sponsor is very rewarding. It can be very lucrative, and it's always an adventure. There's also a huge amount of stress and responsibility from your tenants, your investors, your lenders, the city, and your employees. Now, I'm going to tell you about my first deal, 14 units in Oak Cliff. It was scary, but first, number 1, we do not sell education or mentoring. There are many companies that can sell you this information. I'm familiar with most of them, and you can learn from them all. Never stop learning. I provide free education so that I can attract more passive investors. We make our money on real estate, not on education and mentoring. We have free monthly meetings, free road trips, and also record our meetings and send those out. Just check us out at darwingerman.com. And number 4, we have a team that makes all this work. In future episodes, I'll talk about who I hire, why I hired him, and what they do. I want to give you an idea of how to build your initial team. Now, my adventures in our first property, Norrell Apartments in Oak Cliff. People not familiar with Dallas or Oak Cliff at the time had a very challenging demographic. Now, 60 years ago, it was the nicest place to live in Dallas. But now, urban blight, drugs, prostitution, you name it, it had it. I got suckered into the deal by the seller. Again, this was almost 30 years ago. I've learned a few lessons from that point. So to tell you about this 14-unit property, out of the 14 units, 12 were occupied by drug dealers. We had more traffic at that property than the local 7-Eleven. Now, we had to get the drug dealers to move. They were scaring off the 2 non-drug dealers from staying. That's just funny in itself. Only 2 non-drug dealers out of 14 units. Now, if we wanted to turn the property around, we needed to get those 12 independent pharmaceutical reps off the property. Evictions would have been a fight and could have got ugly. So we took another stance. To kill the drug traffic, we stood out in front and spoke to everybody that pulled up, all potential drug buyers. This meant my partners and I stood out in front and asked everyone who showed up if they were there to score. If they said yes, we told them to leave, or we would call the police. This scared off the buyers and encouraged dealers to move elsewhere. It actually worked. Now, we had a plan. Our plan was to clean up the whole neighborhood. One rule I've learned, clean up properties, not neighborhoods. It's too tough a plan. Again, I naively thought we could make a difference. Now, here's where the seller saw us coming. It's kind of shocking. We paid $80,000, nothing down, for 14 units. That's $5,700 per unit. Almost unbelievable. Couldn't pass up. He would hold back the note, and I would eventually invest over $100,000 in rehab and repairs into the property. The same seller sold the property many times in the past that way. Eventually, the new buyer would default. He would foreclose on it, take it back, and sell it with 20% down and carry the note again. He did this at least a dozen times. He was a brilliant investor, and I was the dumb one at the time. We had 3 partners in the transaction. Myself, I put up the equity, which means I put up the money, and I was the investor and the managing partner. Another partner was going to do the property management, and a third partner was going to do the construction. My partners did not put any money into the deal. They were working on sweat equity, meaning, hey, I put up the money, they do the work. We put in a wrought iron fence, we repainted the property, we improved the units, and this is how bad they were. The carpet was moving like the floor of the temple in Indiana Jones, you know, the one of the snakes, but this was cockroaches under the carpet. There were so many shootings on the street, people sometimes slept in bathtubs. We also, while cleaning up the property, found over 130 used syringes while cleaning up the property. Now, the contractor partner, he gave up first. He would install an air conditioner, the next day it was stolen. Tools would be missing, equipment gone. He got no respect from the residents, even though he was trying to improve their housing. Then, after he left, we found out that he underbid the job by 50%. It wasn't a realistic quote, not even close. Every new contractor was way, way more, and that killed our budget. We also hired an on-site manager. Now, she was a serious sweetheart, but a very unique individual. She used holistic remedies to drive away the cockroaches, to be humane rather than kill them. She also had crazy rules. One was no smoking outside. That's right. I was the only property in the country that did not allow smoking outside, only inside. She allowed tenants to smoke inside the apartment, letting the smoke get into our rugs and walls. But to her, this was better for the environment. My management partner quit second. Too much work and no money in it. He was working for equity. So I took it over. Again, partners can suck. I ran it for 3 years, got some of my money back. Then, because I was getting married at the time and did not like going down there risking getting shot, I sold it back to the previous owner. I didn't make any profit, but I had some invaluable lessons. I learned these lessons with my own money, fortunately, and did not risk other people's money when I was learning on the job. Here are some of the things I learned. Number 1, a very low unit price does not always matter. Don't get seduced by the price only. This is critical. Some investors, especially coming from California, see prices so low in Texas, they want to buy. Those properties could be low for a reason. Bad demographics of tenants, bad city law enforcement, No help from the city on code violations, bad neighbors, and crime issues. One property I looked at had a radon gas contamination and all the underground plumbing was bad. So do your homework on the area, on the property, everything about it. Number 2, you cannot clean up neighborhoods. Again, I thought we could make a difference in the neighborhood. But if your neighbors are not going to put money into the property and help take care of the community, you have an uphill battle you will not likely win. The cockroaches, bad tenants, are going to come onto your property from the neighbors, from anywhere. Do some initial research on your tenants. Changing a distressed property takes a lot of energy. Know that up front. People and partners should get paid for what they do. Services, jobs, etc. Hire people with experience and pay them for what they do. Never take on a partner when you can hire them instead. Don't trade equity interest in a deal for future proposed work. And the lowest price does not translate into the lowest cost. Why? Because if you get a low bid, it may not translate into quality work. Also get several backup bids for the same scope of work. That was an amazing project. I can't say it was the most successful one by far, but I learned many lessons, and I want to share that story with you. In future podcasts, I want to share with you other real estate investing stories so you can learn from my struggles and my successes. Again, I hope you enjoyed this story of Norell Apartments. If you want to reach out to me, my name is Darwin German, and you can email me at darwin@darwingerman.com. Thank you so much for listening.